This is a story of how I went from trading in my high school library to being a six-figure trader, traveling the world with my profits, and now teaching over 400 students how to be successful with trading as well. It took me 7 years to get here, but with what I've learned, I'm confident I could do it in less than a year if I had to restart back from zero. And so throughout this video of me sharing my story, I'm going to drop some tips along the way so you can go ahead and not make the same mistakes that I did when I was going through my journey. But let me take you back to when I was 16 years old and I got my first job at Bed Bath & Beyond, because this is where it all started. So my first job was at Bed Bath & Beyond. It's funny that I started working there because they eventually became a meme stock and I ended up trading them and making money off of that. But nonetheless, that was where it all started when I was 16 years old. And the first shift was awful. Bed Bath & Beyond, I'm sorry, it's not the greatest company, as you can tell. What I did was, after working there the first shift, I went home and I went onto my computer and I did something that probably every single one of you watching has done. I went on Google and I went on YouTube and I looked up how to make money quick online as a teenager. Because I knew at that point that I could not be with the 9-to-5, I couldn't have a job the rest of my life, and I needed to figure out a way where I could make money online without having to go through a normal job. And I came across a video of someone who was trading penny stocks, and this individual made about $2,000 in 2 minutes. And the minute I saw that, I realized there was something there. And it was so easy the way he did it, and I was no way in my mind that I would not be able to do the same exact thing that he did. And that eventually sent me down the rabbit hole. The fact that I was making about $12 an hour, working my ass off on a job that I hated, and I saw someone online who was making $2,000 in less than a few minutes simply by pressing some buttons on his computer. It was absolutely mind-blowing to me. But that is what started the journey of me actually learning about trading, and so that started the deep dive of a bunch of research and a bunch of YouTube videos of learning everything I could about trading. And so after spending a few months of learning about trading and technical analysis and how penny stocks even worked, I wanted to get into it. I wanted to actually start trading. But there were two issues with this. The first one being that I was under 18, and you have to be 18 to trade. The other one being the PDT rule, understanding that if I wanted to become a day trader, the PDT rule prevented me from doing that. And for those that don't know, the PDT rule stands for the pattern day trader rule, which basically means you need more than $25,000 to take more than 3 day trades a week, which you technically still could day trade with a PDT rule. However, it made it really hard, and I wanted to have a lot more leverage and a lot more margin to be able to actually trade freely without the PDT. So with these two issues in mind, the first way to get over that was by using an offshore broker, because if the broker is not based in the US, I knew that I didn't have to follow PDT rule, meaning I could fund an account with $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, and I wouldn't have to worry about the amount of day trades I'd be taking every single week. And with the second issue being under 18, I could do a custodial account, whereas as long as my parents were under the name, I could simply trade off their account using their information. And so I eventually went to my mom for a custodial account to see if I could actually make this happen. And of course, she was against it at first. She didn't want to do it. But after a while of convincing, I finally convinced her to allow me to do this. And so I had $1,000, I wanted to fund the account, I got everything set up, and I was ready to go. And so of course, another issue comes about when I go and try and wire the money and realize that you have to do the wire in person. So now here I am trying to convince my mom to go to the bank with me so I can wire $1,000 to a brokerage in the Trinidad and Tobago, an offshore company, to trade with. And of course, it sounded crazy to her. But again, after some convincing, I finally got her to actually go to the bank with me so we could wire the money. And after tons and tons of convincing, we finally go there. And even the bank teller at the time was acting crazy. She was like, "Are you sure? You're 16 years old. You just want to have your mom send $1,000 in her name to this other money, to this offshore account that we've got flagged as scam and all this stuff." And it was crazy, but I was able to do it. I was able to convince her. And I finally, after like 3 days and a week of getting the money across and everything figured out, sending the money to my mom, getting it to her, to the other account, we finally got it funded. I had $1,000 in an offshore account. There was no PDT restrictions. I could trade it freely with my own setup. And I was very, very excited to get started trading. And here I am thinking that I'm going to turn this $1,000 into $1 million in the next 6 months. I'm thinking it's going to be easy. I've watched all the YouTube videos. I've watched all the day trading videos. I know exactly where to buy, where to sell. I know exactly how this is going to go. And of course, that's not how things pan out, as you probably understand. I remember the first day I actually made some money. I made like 120 bucks. I decided to stop trading, and I was like very happy with that. Day 2 comes along and I ended up losing a few $100s, and of course it's not a good feeling. I overtraded a little bit, but I was able to stop myself and say, you know what, I'm going to come back to this next day. I'm just going to let it do its thing, and we're going to go ahead and regress, learn from my mistakes. Day 3 comes along, and of course, I end up blowing my account on this third day. I get in on a pullback trading penny stocks. It keeps going lower. I don't get out. I'm very, very emotional. I see the P&L just drop. I add, price keeps going lower and lower, and I end up blowing the entire account. Okay, the broker ends up auto stopping me out. I have like $120 left in the account. I'm not allowed to trade anymore, and it was possibly the worst day of my life. $1,000 at the time was pretty much everything I had. It was my first job. I put all my money into it, and I worked really hard to get that money, and all of a sudden it was gone, and just a few quick, simple, bad decisions. And the last thing I wanted to do was go to my mom and tell her if she could wire out the remaining 150, because I felt so embarrassed. So I actually waited like a month until I went up to her and eventually told her, and of course she was pissed. She was mad. She was like, "What are you doing? I knew this would happen." I said, "I know, but it's my money. You didn't lose anything. Don't worry. I know it was my mistake. It's 100% my fault. I just want to get the remaining 150 out." So we finally got the 150 out. We got it back, and there I was back at square zero. And after that happened, it really didn't bother me because I knew I had lost the money, and yeah, the money sucked, but I knew that I'd be able to get it back working another job. And I was so excited because I knew I loved trading. I found a new passion, and I just fixed a few things. I would be able to finally make it work. And I remember I truly had felt a real passion for this because of school, because I hated going to school, absolutely hated it. I always remember looking forward to the weekends, and once I found trading, it was actually the opposite. I started to hate the weekends. I started to love showing up on the weekdays, even though I had school, but I knew that those were when the markets were open. I could trade, I could learn, I could watch, and that's what really fueled my passion. So at this point in time, I still didn't have like a lot of money. I only had a few $100s to my name, and I still wanted to keep trading. And this is when I found something that is really interesting. You probably may or may not know of, but it's a company that is kind of like the OG prop firm. Okay, this was like talking 7 years ago, before the big prop firms were even really a thing. It wasn't TopStep, it wasn't Apex, because before those were even around. It was kind of like an educational and prop firm kind of mix and match thing. I ended up joining, of course, lost all my money with them. It was like a few $100s, but that is what actually introduced me to large cap stocks, because you weren't allowed to trade penny stocks with that. So that initially opened me up to the idea of large caps. And again, of course, throughout this time, I wasn't making any money still, but throughout this time, I ended up actually turning 18. And this was a huge turning point for me in my trading career. Because now that I was 18, I could open up my own account. I could actually trade with a real broker. I didn't have to go through my parents. I could open up as many accounts as I wanted, futures, options. I could try everything, cash account, margin account, and there was basically no restriction. I was also old enough at this time to join Discord groups or join mentorships or join and purchase things on my own without having to worry about my parents freaking out or worrying about it. That was honestly a huge turning point. And at the same time is when I started my Twitter account or X account. And that's when I started just posting my trades, using it as kind of like a public trading journal where I could really learn from other traders, learn from myself, and use it to just help anyone else out that wanted to learn how to trade. And so now that I finally could open up my own accounts and have my own brokerages, I started doing a lot more with options, started doing a lot more with futures, started exploring large cap stocks, and kind of got out of the penny stock era because I just didn't really want to deal with that. And so the next year or two of this story, I'm going to try and condense in just a few sentences here, because honestly, it went like this. I would find a strategy, I would fund an account with $1,000 or $2,000, I would trade it, I would be consistent, I'd lose a little bit, maybe be break even for a few weeks or a month, and then all on one day, I would blow up the account and lose it all. And this cycle happened so many times. It happened over like 12 times. I blew up so many accounts where I'd fund it with like $1,000, try a new strategy, I'd blame the strategy, and then I would just blow it all up on one single day, and then never blame myself. And that was a constant cycle that happened over and over again. And so what I did was I ended up door dashing when I turned 18. I went to college at the same time, and I did that to get as much funds as I could so I could simply just door dash on the weekdays, on the weekends, after classes, get as much money as I could, fund a trading account, blow it up after a month, and then repeat the cycle. And so after a while of doing this, it was actually coming up to be my 19th birthday. My parents obviously knew about my trading, and so the only thing I really wanted for my trading was actually to buy a trading course. And I'm very, very thankful that I went up to my parents and I asked them if they could help purchase a trading course for me for my birthday. And of course they did it. It was about $2,000. Very, very nice. Very grateful for that. And that actually helped me out a lot when it comes to trading, because there were a lot of things in there that I didn't even know were a thing when it comes to trading. Things like market cycles or things like rotations. These were types of concepts that I didn't even realize were a trading thing that I needed to know in order to be successful with trading. And so after like 6 months or so trading with the strategies inside this course, it was interesting because I was kind of break even, still consistent, but I still wasn't really making money. My account wasn't really growing. It was very up and down, very back and forth, and I still wasn't seeing the results I wanted to see. And after a while of this, I was finally able to actually hire a mentor who I found off of Twitter or X. Now, it's not anyone big. It's someone who's relatively private who makes a lot of money trading, but I was very fortunate to come across him on X and Twitter and actually hire him as my mentor. And the biggest thing this mentor helped me do was actually help me define my edge and my actual strategy. Because the one big thing about this course that I joined was that it was really good. It taught me a lot of concepts I didn't understand, but it was lacking like a real strategy, like a real edge over the market where I could just repeat every single day. It was kind of just a bunch of different concepts put together, and I was kind of just forced to figure it out. And so learning from my mentor, I knew that I had to put all these concepts together and basically come up with my own edge and come up with a real strategy that I knew over time would work. And again, all of this is happening while I'm in college, while I'm trying to learn classes. I'm studying a bunch of different classes. I'm learning, going through the whole college experience. But at the same time, I really want to get this trading thing to work. My goal was to be successful with it before I graduate. And I ended up doing that, but we'll get later to that in the story. But nonetheless, I figured out how to trade while having limited time. And that's the huge thing that a lot of traders who come to me have issues with. It's how do I trade? I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of this. And I'm going to get into that later in the video, but I'm telling you, there's a very easy way to do it. And so while I was building my strategy, it was a constant cycle of simply testing, iterating, and then trying again. I would test a strategy and I would analyze the results. And if it was working, great. If it wasn't working, I would take something out or add something in and just get it to work where I could have a very successful win rate and a very good risk reward. Those were the two metrics that I would track time and time again. I have a bunch of different data on different strategies. I've tried pretty much everything you can think of because I used to strategy hop over and over again. And I finally came up with a strategy over like 6 months that actually worked for me. And finally, after like 2.5 to 3 years of when I actually started trading to where I was in this college era, I finally got it to work. I actually started seeing consistent growth. I started trading with one setup, this one strategy I had back tested, and my account finally got over a PDT. I had over 25K. I could trade a lot freely, and it was very, very awesome that I actually got it to work. And at this point, I was almost ready to graduate, and I was very happy because at the time, I had enough saved up, I had enough confidence in my strategy, I was making enough consistent income where I could do this full time out of college. And I could quit door dashing, I could quit Bed Bath & Beyond, all the other jobs I had done to fund my accounts. I finally had figured out trading. I finally got it to work after I graduated college. And at this point, as I started to travel a little bit more, I ended up moving out here to Miami. I started posting a lot more in X, and I started to build a following on Twitter, and people started to like the strategy that I was posting and the education I was posting. And a bunch of people basically kept asking me for help. And so after about a year of simply trading full time on my own, just having an income, living life, living an incredible life, traveling, making as much money as I could with trading, simply trading for like an hour a day. After all these DMs, everyone hitting me up, trying to ask for help, I decided to actually start helping people myself. And so that's when I decided to build the Freedom Team, which for now, about a year and a half later, we've helped over 400 students. We have a incredible system. And the best part about it is that we actually have a system similar to how I do with my trading. Because just like how I spent months and months and months testing and refining and back testing my strategy in my trading system, I did the same thing for a mentorship process because I knew I had joined other Discords in the past. I had joined other mentorships and courses in the past, and some of them were good, some of them weren't good, but they were lacking actual structure. And I wanted to come up with a system where I could actually have a student who knows pretty much nothing or very, maybe even a little bit about trading and have them go to consistently profitable within 8 weeks. And so after months and months of helping students on their own and figuring this out, I came up with a process and a system for mentoring students that actually works really, really well. And I really dialed in on a system where I can mentor people the right way so they can learn how to trade successfully using my strategies without having to rely on alerts, without having to trade more than an hour a day, and honestly without any emotions in their trading. Because the best part about all of this was that I didn't have a lot of time to trade. The whole point of trading was having freedom, and I knew if I had to stick around at the charts all day, I wouldn't have any freedom. So that's when I learned about automation orders, added that into my trading system, and now it's almost very self-sufficient where I don't need to sit around in front of the charts for more than an hour each day. And if you are interested in becoming one of my students and learning exactly from me, my exact back-tested strategy, I've been trading now for the past 2.5 years full time. What I'm gonna do is leave a link in the description below to a free training video. And that training video basically covers my 3-phase system, which is the system I've back-tested and developed to help take pretty much anyone who hasn't traded or maybe has been trading for a few years but still isn't profitable to them becoming consistently profitable in just 8 weeks, again, without any alerts, without any trading for more than an hour each day. And at the end of that training video, you'll have the opportunity to hop on a call with someone of my coaches or myself from my team. That way we can see if you'd be a good fit for my mentorship in the first place, because we don't just let anyone in. We have to make sure you're a good fit and we can actually help you out. So you'll have that opportunity at the end of watching the training video, which again, I'll leave a link in the description below, so you can go ahead and check that out right now. But I hope you guys did enjoy. It was definitely an interesting journey. I'm on close to year 7 now of my trading journey, and it was a long time to actually get myself profitable. But again, knowing what I've learned in the past 7 years, I'm very confident I could have done it a lot quicker. And the best way to do that is simply by learning from someone who's done it. So hope you guys did enjoy. Leave a like, subscribe, check out some of the educational videos I have below if you're new. I'll see you all in the next video.